I mean, like, they are they're basically the top of, they're basically the top of the whole human trafficking industry, to the point where there was a woman who got kidnapped and trafficked, and like 3 or 5 years later, after she had been, indoctrinated, the guy that she was trafficked to, that she was forced to marry for money, basically sexually assaulted her every day because he was always against her will. She ended up becoming so indoctrinated that she went back to Vietnam and committed the same crime with 2 other women.
I want to talk about that. This is just absolutely, it's horrific what's going on, but I want to talk about the indoctrination that's going on, because it's happening here in America. I used a meme that some people might find crude. I titled it "Poverty and Pussy: The Decline of a Western Civilization." There is a active indoctrination that's going on here in United States, but not just the United States. Also you were in Vietnam, where you witnessed it as well. Am I correct?
Let me just put this in perspective for you. If your daughter shows up and says that she wants to marry somebody from like Europe, I'm gonna say, tell her no. Like, Europe as a continent, the EU, and in fact, in Britain, I mean, they've pretty much just been indoctrinated to accept pedophilia for the most part. Like, to the point where like, basically, I watch people try to make excuses for why it was okay. And now you have all these unmarried young people who have been taught that that's totally socially acceptable, and the mindset that they taught them this under is, the West is just so far behind us. We're just so ahead of how the future has to be. And I'm like, I'm sorry, the future has nothing. I'm sorry, having sex with children has nothing to do with the future. I hate to break it to you, So they're pretty screwed, like, to the point where, I mean, we're talking about people who, pretty much been conditioned that, like, having sex with your kids is totally okay.
I mean,
and these are the people that are supposed to be teachers in Vietnam, right? English teachers, But that's another subject. I'm sorry. Go ahead. But I mean, like,
I want to delve into this topic because they're coming out.
And let me say this: it is not gender specific. That is how bad the problem has proliferated over in Europe. Is that it is not gender specific, and that's one of the components of the whole issue with Boris Johnson, is that he's one of these people, in his party that were like, "Now we're railing against that." And because they were railing against it, it became an issue where basically, their issue with him is that same issue that has been presented against the current administration in America, which is they're like, "Oh, we're going to accuse you of the things that we're doing behind closed doors." But I digress. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about the conditioning that's going on, and it's happening here in America. Recently, there's been a mass promotion of a Netflix movie that is being promoted in our mainstream media called Cuties. And, it's this kind of, it doesn't even look like it's filmed in America. It's this really grainy looking film style that's sort of guerrilla film like, and it's actually promoting, like, these girls look like they're in poverty, but because they're dressed provocatively and they're studying dance, they're extremely happy, and it's an outright assault, in my opinion, on American culture or Western civilization. They're trying to normalize this sort of third world looking esque conditions, for one, and then the other is it's incredibly uncomfortable to watch these young women that are going obviously prepubescent, and coming into
being ruined. Being ruined, being led to ruin, 100%. I mean, you know, you don't like my language, or well, but yeah, totally being led to ruin, 100%. 100%.
Well, yeah, and it's really uncomfortable to see a movie like this come out of America at such a time in history where we're being inundated with so much controversial content regarding the children, and it made me feel really, really uncomfortable. I don't know if you watched the trailer.
Well, here's my thing is that I saw like a few snippets of it, and what I was able to take and a bunch of stills, right? What I was able to take away from it was the fact that basically Netflix is telling you that hey, we're basically, we're basically child porn tube now. We're basically child porn tube.
Well, yeah. Well,
that's basically. I'm just saying that's where they're at now.
And I just want to confirm your statement there, because people are going to be like, wow, well, they didn't say that. Actually, they did come out with a public statement. There were a lot of complaints and submissions to Netflix, and you can go online, and they did come out with a public statement where they have made the film. There were so many complaints into Netflix. They have made the film only available to adults. Well,
too late.
Well, not only that in itself is a huge statement as well.
Well, yeah, for sure. That is definitely one of those things, because of the simple fact that it's just like, well, what do you want me to tell you, fellas? But at the same time, I'll say this. I'll just say this and be real direct about it, which is what we have is a situation where Netflix, I guess, is compromised in a certain kind of way, and their mindset is, listen, we're gonna just go on ahead and go along with what they tell us to do. And what they told us to do was start allowing pedos to pay for it, softcore anyway. So they're starting with the softcore stuff, and over time, once they get it the way they want it, they're definitely going to start making the effort to try and just roll it out, like the X rating will increase. Right now it's just softcore, but their goal is to definitely increase the rating over time.
Wow.
In a nutshell, that's basically what they're doing. So, and people say, oh, that's not what they're doing, you're crazy. And I'm just like, when I look back now, quiet as kept. Like, I don't even know why anyone hasn't just come out and said it, which is the movie Kids is basically, it's basically kid, it's basically child pornography. Like, when I look back on it now, like, yeah, that's child porn. Okay. Thanks Noah Gallagher. And people say, how could you say that? How could you say that? And I'm like, no, I'm being honest with you. I'm being 100% honest with you. It's child porn. Like, it's almost 2x child porn. And people say, well, how would you? Listen to this. When R. Kelly's videotape went viral, right? And everyone knew that he was urinating on a 15 or 14 or 16-year-old girl or whatever. That was child pornography. And people were still circulating the tape like it was okay. There were people selling the tape on the corner in New York. And I'm like, is everybody that deep? This was back in 2000 and I want to say,
was it 2002?
3 or something? It was like, what's that?
It was like 2002, 2005.
Yeah, it was like 2002, 2005. And it was that weird moment where, it was 2005. Yeah, it was 2005. I remember. So it's like that weird moment where what you're looking at is that, they didn't say anything about it. And I remember looking at people like, are you guys kidding me? Like why are you watching kitty porn? Like, seriously? But again, people had, again, people were still mentally dealing with the fact that they wanted to label it a color issue about R. Kelly, and I'm just like, listen, I don't really have all the facts about it, but what I do know is that he was urinating on like after a certain point in time, people who let me know very clearly, hey, I saw the tape. I mean, we've all seen the digitally blurred images and video clips of it where he was on it, and it's just like, okay, so basically R. Kelly urinated on a kid, so that's what he likes to do. And there's no amount of, oh, that wasn't me on the tape, and I'm just like, really? So more than anything, what you learned about R. Kelly wasn't that he's a freak, it's that R. Kelly's a pedophile. Like, okay, not okay, that's cool. Like, okay, see you later.
So let's move forward to 2020, where people have just been informed of COVID-19 and the lockdown, and the economy has pretty much been shot down, and people are in shock from that, and they're coping with that, and now they're being inundated with this effort to try and normalize pedophilia. And let's talk about the open psychological warfare that's going on.
Well, I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time? I don't know why, but it sounded like you said something completely different.
This is a straight up attack on the American psyche, because we have Americans that are grappling, they're struggling. All right, they're already struggling with poverty, and they've already been being there's already been a psychological warfare since the last 15 years, if you will, give or take.
Yeah, totally.
So
without fail.
So they're piling on the cuties and this whole Netflix thing where they're really showcasing, normalizing pedophilia.
Well, I mean, I think the cat came out of the bag when we had to when they actually took the time to try to make two completely different. Let me repeat: two completely different TED Talks, where the girl was trying to advocate. Said, so we need to work with these people, and I'm like, nah, we don't need to do that. Like we'll do no such thing. We'll do no, and that's the thing, is that kids are not like I mean, you've heard me say this a million times, right? Kids aren't negotiable. Kids are they're just not. They're not. Like I've seen firsthand what happens when people try to negotiate the safety of children based on in a situation like that, where and I'll just kind of speak about something personal, where I've been in that situation where I've had to help a friend co-parent their kid to some state of normalcy after the kid has been subjected to that by several family members. And it's just disturbing on levels where I can tell you personally, after having to help this person work through that, I can tell you 100%, like the idea or the concept that even remotely in the vaguest sense that that's negotiable requires that person be, that person. I mean, like people that say, we should negotiate or not negotiate. People that approach you with the idea of bargaining with those types of people are people who are either incredibly stupid and naive, or they're guilty of the crime themselves. And people will say, well, that's a hasty generalization, or that's a hasty jump to, that's jumping to conclusion. And I'm just like, no, I don't think it is.
No.
Not even close. Because it's one of those things where it's not negotiable. How do you...
Eyes Wide Shut.
You can't sell me that. You can't sell me that.
What year was the movie Eyes Wide Shut by Stanley Kubrick? What year was that released?
I think Eyes Wide Shut was, like a 2000, it was like a 2000 maybe 2005 movie, I think it was. Or
there's a scene in that movie. There's a scene in that movie where Lily Sabowski's father plays that exact scenario. You know.